He was trained to resist temptation, rules, protocol, boundaries. But none of that mattered the moment Aronas stepped into her tent. There she stood, Marra, the alien woman with eyes like frozen stars, and a voice that melted steel. "Do you know what it's like to live untouched?" she asked, stepping closer, alone, cold, watching humans feel things I was forbidden to feel. He didn't answer, couldn't, because she was already loosening her chest plate, one piece falling to the sand-covered floor. Not fast, not desperate, deliberate, seductive, dangerous. "They told me humans are weak," she whispered. "But you, Aronas, you're warm." He should have left, but her glow half-light, half-pain held him like gravity. That night, in a tent built for war, something fragile broke through. Not armor, not protocol, something deeper. Desire. And what started with forbidden heat would turn into a decision that could destroy everything Earth's mission, his career, even his life. War had ended, or so they said, after decades of space conflict. Humans and the alien race known as the Valeri signed a peace pact. No more blood, no more invasions, just cautious coexistence. But peace never truly lives on the battlefield. It hides in the shadows, in cold tents under desert skies. That's where Aronas was stationed, deep in the outer military zone. A silent observer, a rule follower, a soldier's soldier. Until she arrived. Marra, Valeri envoy, cool-skinned, emotionless, trained to analyze human weaknesses, not feel anything for them. At first, she was a ghost in his periphery. She rarely spoke. Her movements were perfect, mechanical. She'd sit alone in her tent every night, staring into nothingness while the winds howled through the dunes. But Aronas noticed things. The way her eyes lingered on warmth, the way her breath trembled just slightly during cold nights, and the way she watched him when she thought no one else was looking. He'd been told not to approach. She wasn't just an alien. She was dangerous intelligence. A Valeri Recon-class spy sent to observe Earth's tactical behavior. Still, one night, when the storm outside grew violent and the power inside failed, he made a choice. He stepped inside her tent. It was darker than he expected. Warmer. She stood by a small heat lamp, arms crossed over her armored chest. Her eyes met his, and something in them had changed. Not curiosity, not defense. Need. "I didn't call for you," she said quietly. "I know," he replied, voice steady. "But something told me you needed someone tonight." A beat of silence. Her lips parted slightly, as if unsure what words were supposed to come next. Then she said it. "Do humans know how to share warmth?" That's when she stepped forward, slow and fearless. "I've lived on this planet for 7 months." Aronas watched laughter, watched touch, watched desire from behind glass. Her fingers moved to the first clasp of her armor. Click. The top section dropped. "My people say warmth is weakness. But right now, all I want..." She took another step forward. Her voice now a breath, "is to feel it." Aronas didn't speak. Couldn't. His training screamed at him to leave, to report this breach. But her eyes didn't lie, and neither did his pulse. This wasn't a mission anymore. It wasn't about politics. It was about a man and a woman from two worlds, and the moment their bodies collided with the one thing neither side could control, desire. That night, inside that tent, the first rule shattered. But it wouldn't be the last. The desert wind screamed through the night, but inside her tent, everything was silent. Aronas stood still, just a step inside. Marra was facing him, one hand resting on her half-open armor, the other trembling barely. Her breath fogged the air between them, even though the heater buzzed softly in the corner. But this wasn't cold. It was fear, not the fear of battle, not death, but the fear of what she was about to feel. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, eyes fixed on his. "Then stop," Aronas said calmly. "But you won't." Her lips parted slightly. No denial, just the faintest curve of smirk. A wound. Even she didn't know. "Do you think it's easy?" she asked. "My body was made in vats. My mind trained from birth to override attachment. But tonight, I can't stop wondering what your skin feels like." She took a step forward. Aronas didn't move, didn't flinch. His fists were tight, every nerve inside him screaming. Not in resistance, in anticipation. Marra reached out tentative, like a child who'd never known warmth. Her fingers brushed against his chest, just above the edge of his collar. She blinked. "You're hot," she whispered. "You're cold," he replied. "Then let's ruin each other," she said. And her hands moved again, this time without hesitation. Her chest plate unlatched fully. It slid to the floor with a muted clang. Underneath, the bilayer clung to her skin, tight and glowing faintly with pulsing blue veins of alien tech. But she didn't stop there. Her hands moved to the sides, peeling off the suit like it was suffocating her. And maybe it was. Every day I've worn this, I've hated myself a little more, she said, voice shaking. But I never hated myself more than the day I started watching you, wanting you. Aronas stepped forward. One step. That's all. But it shattered something in her. She gasped, as if that one move from him pierced years of mental armor. "Are you going to touch me?" she asked, voice a breath. "No," he said softly. "I'm going to hold you." And he did. His arms wrapped around her, not with hunger, not with dominance, but with a kind of tragic mercy neither of them had ever known. She collapsed into him, her face burying into his neck, her cold skin pressing into his heat like metal. Drawn to fire, there were no moans, no fast kisses, no tearing clothes. Just two bodies trying to understand what it meant to be human, or alien, or alive. Marra pulled back just enough to look at him. Her pupils are dilated, shimmering now with a deep violet hue. "If I let this happen," she said, "there's no going back. Not for me, not for you." Aronas nodded. "Then, don't go back. Just go forward with me." Tears welled up in her eyes, something forbidden by her creators. Her lips trembled. And then, she kissed him. Not passionately, not hungrily, but desperately. Like someone who had waited their whole life just to be seen, to be touched, to be held without fear. The kiss deepened slowly, their fingers exploring skin and heat an emotion like cartographers discovering a new planet. And in that tent meant for war, meant for observation, meant for politics and silence. Two enemies became lovers, and her code cracked. Not from sabotage, not from data corruption, but from something stronger than programming: intimacy. As the night stretched on, and the storm outside raged harder, Marra let herself feel, and Aronas let himself fall. And both of them knew, tomorrow, there would be consequences. But tonight, they were more than soldier and spy, more than man and alien. They were warmth and cold, crashing together to make something human. The storm had passed. Silence now wrapped around the desert, broken only by the faint hum of distant surveillance drones, and the rhythmic breath of a new tension, not of war, but of desire just spent. Inside the dim tent, Aronas lay half awake, shirt open, his hand resting gently on Marra's bare shoulder, her skin still warm from the heat they created hours ago. She hadn't moved for a long time, but her breathing wasn't soft, it was controlled. Too controlled. Aronas opened his eyes, turning toward her. "You're not sleeping." She stared at the roof of the tent, silver light cutting through the fabric, casting alien-shaped shadows across her face. "There's something I need to tell you," she said quietly, "before we go any further." He sat up slowly. Something in her tone shifted, the air colder than any breeze. "Say it," he said. She reached for the last piece of armor lying beside them, not to wear, just to hold, like a reminder of who she was. "I wasn't sent here for diplomacy, Aronas. I was sent to extract Earth's command codes." His breath halted, the warmth between them suddenly smothered by a layer of ice. "You're a spy," he said flatly. She nodded once, eyes never leaving his. "I was, until you started leaving your coffee mug where I could see it. Until you started humming that old Earth song outside my tent. Until I started waiting for it. I wasn't supposed to feel anything. I was supposed to report. Use you if I had to." Her voice cracked then, just barely. "But then I touched you, and I didn't feel mission success." She looked away, her voice trembling like the tent in the wind. "I felt alive." Aronas said nothing for a moment. His hands clenched, not out of anger, out of hurt, confusion, betrayal, maybe even fear, because the one person who had given him a glimpse of something beautiful had also come to destroy him. "So what is this, Marra?" he asked. "Just a glitch in your mission?" She shook her head, eyes finally meeting his again. "This is the first thing in my life that wasn't programmed. It's not a glitch. It's a rebellion." Outside, the moonlight grew stronger, casting everything in silvery honesty. Marra pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around herself naked, not just in body, but in truth. "I don't want the codes anymore. I don't want the mission. I want you." He looked at her, eyes flickering with a dozen thoughts. How easy it would be to walk out, to report her, to protect the Earth, to do what he was trained to do. But his body didn't move. Instead, he reached toward her slow, unsure, but real. "Then prove it," he said softly. "Prove that this wasn't a setup." She reached for his hand, but he gently stopped her. "Not with your body. That part's easy. Prove it with your choice. You walk out of this tent tomorrow, and you're either reporting to your handler, or you're mine. Silence. A long breath. Then Marra nodded. Once. If I choose you, I can never go home again. Then I'll build you a new one, Aronas whispered. He pulled her into him, wrapping his arms around her tightly, this time not as a lover, but as someone who had chosen her back. They lay like that for a while. No words, just heartbeats, skin to skin, moonlight painting quiet promises. Tent. Dawn, the first golden sliver of sun cut across the edge of the tent. Marra stood near the entrance, now wearing only a dark cloak over her bare back. She looked back at him, still sitting on the bedding. I'm not going to report, she said, but that means I'm a fugitive now. Both sides will want me dead. He stood and picked up his gear slowly. Then let them come, he said. We've got a whole planet to run across. She smiled. First time. Fully. It wasn't seduction. It wasn't strategy. It was love. Weaponized. Narration voice over closing of Section 3. They say the moon reveals what the sun hides. That night, under alien light, she didn't just confess her mission. She confessed her heart. And what began as betrayal became a beginning neither of them planned, but both of them were willing to risk everything for. They had run. No orders, no map, no certainty, just two bodies, two pulses, and a single choice that had left the stars behind them. Now, they were hiding in the ruins of a forgotten outpost. A place where no drones flew, no patrols watched, only shadows and silence. The room was cracked open to the stars above. Moonlight poured in, painting Marra's skin in silver blue light as she stood before Aronas barefoot. Breathless, he leaned against the wall, battered from the journey, still in his uniform. His eyes, however, hadn't left her for a second. We're not safe here, he said softly. She stepped forward, slow and sure. I don't want to be safe tonight. Marra's voice had changed. No longer cautious. No longer torn between command and feeling. This was her voice, undiluted, raw and real. She reached up, unclipping the loose cloak around her shoulders. It slid down like water, revealing soft curves, firm control, and an alien body that had never been given freely to anyone. Not until now. You don't know what it means for my kind, she whispered, stepping closer. We don't give ourselves, not to anyone, not unless it's absolute. Aronas swallowed. His throat was dry, his pulse a war drum in his chest. Then why now? He asked. She stopped inches from him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his chest. Because I'm done surviving someone else's rules. I want to live by yours. Her hand moved to his collar, slowly unfastening the top button of his uniform. And I want you to know all of me. He didn't move like prey caught in the presence of something holy. Not because he feared her, but because he revered her. She continued, working each button with reverence, not haste. This wasn't seduction. This was ceremony. My body, she said, pulling his shirt open, placing her hand over his heart. My loyalty, my choice. Their foreheads touched, eyes closed, breaths SYNCED. Then, as if following a silent signal between them, they lowered themselves to the ground. No words, just limbs intertwining like vines. Finally free to reach the sun, he kissed her neck slowly, tracing the blue glow of her veins. She shivered not because of the cold, but because no one had ever touched her as if she were real. She moaned softly into his shoulder, clutching his back as if afraid he'd vanish. "You're not using me," she whispered, barely audible. "No," he murmured into her skin. "I'm worshipping you." Her body pressed against his, their movements unhurried. It was less of a storm, more of a tide rising together, learning each other's rhythm without a single word spoken. And as they became one, the moment didn't feel stolen. It felt earned, like the universe had been waiting for two rebels to collide, not in war but in surrender. She cried, softly, not from pain, but because this was the first time her body had belonged to her, and she chose to give it to him. Their fingers locked, breaths fast, skin against skin, a sacred collision of species, scars, and secrets. Time vanished, only heat remained. Marra laid her head on Aronas's chest, fingers tracing circles over his heart. "That was more than I imagined," she said, voice still shaking. "That was everything," he replied, pulling her closer. There were no lies between them now. No armor, no missions, no code. Only two souls who'd done the one thing their people feared the most, loved across the line. She wasn't just offering her body. She was handing him the very last piece of herself, the part that still believed she could be more than a weapon. And in his arms, that night, she wasn't Valerie. She was Marra, a woman who chose love over legacy. The fire had long gone out, but the warmth between them hadn't. Marra sat quietly on a crumbling ledge, Aronas behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, his chin resting against her shoulder. They watched the horizon together, where distant. Stars slowly faded as Earth's sun prepared to rise, but neither of them smiled, because love had a price, and their world didn't allow their kind of love to exist without consequences. "The patrols will come looking," Aronas said softly, breaking the silence. "Your commander won't accept what we've done." Marra didn't respond. She had already felt the ripple in her skin, her alien physiology reacting to a silent call, a psychic signal from her people. They knew. And worse, they were coming. "They'll see me as compromised," she said, voice hollow. "They'll take me back, reprogram me, rip this out of me." She looked at him now, not with fear, but with sorrow. "I can't go back to what I was, Aronas. Not after you." Her tent. When she whispered to him for warmth, her armor falling piece by piece, their hands locked in moonlight. Her tears as she surrendered herself to him. His face, soft and reverent, saying, "I'm worshipping you." "Then don't," Aronas said. "Run with me, somewhere off-grid. I know places." She gave him a soft, broken laugh. "We'll be hunted. We'll never rest. I'd rather be hunted with you than safe without you." That was when the air cracked, a low hum, a descending roar, the unmistakable sound of an alien extraction pod tearing through the clouds. They both turned, a silver streak, Too fast. Too close. They're here. Marra whispered. Aronas stood in front of her like a shield. His instincts back soldier sharp. Then they'll have to get through me. But Marra stepped forward. Her palm rested gently on his chest. No, love. You can't fight them with fists. But maybe I can fight them with truth. Alien. Soldiers step out. Valeri enforces silent, beautiful, terrifying. One steps forward. A female commander with eyes like frost. Unit Marra 09, she states. You have violated physical protocol. Human contamination detected. It wasn't contamination, Marra replies, lifting her chin. The commander's eyes narrow. You chose him. Yes, and I'd choose him again. Gasps ripple through the other enforcers. Aronas watches, tense, ready to pull a weapon butt. Marra raises a hand. If you erase me, then you destroy what makes us different from machines. You destroy the proof that we're more. The commander steps forward. You'd abandon your people. For this human, no. Marra says, I want a new people, a new kind of tribe. One where love isn't weakness, but evolution. There's silence, heavy, breathless. Then, slowly, one of the younger enforcers steps forward, her eyes flick to Aronas. She lowers her weapon. Slightest nod. The commander sees it, feels it. The shift. We will report this. The commander says finally, you will be considered rogue. Then I'll be rogue with him. Marra says, turning toward Aronas, taking his hand. They walk, not to run, not to hide, but toward something new. No more tents, no more sides, just earth beneath their feet, and stars above to witness what no one believed possible. Love that crossed galaxies, a bond that broke programming, and a beginning forged from defiance and desire. She came to this planet as a weapon, but she found warmth in a man who wasn't supposed to matter, and in choosing him, she redefined what it meant to be alive. Maybe love doesn't conquer all, but sometimes it rebuilds what war tried to destroy.